Three generals are brought together. Huainan was very fruitful, and Yuan Shu, as governor of such a large district, was very influential. He was not a little puffed up. The possession of the imperial seal, pledged by Sun Tse, added to his pride, and he seriously thought of assuming the full style. As a preliminary, he assembled all his officers and addressed them thus. Of old Cao Tzu, founder of the dynasty of Han, was only a very minor official, and yet he became ruler of the empire. The dynasty has endured 4 centuries, and its measure of fortune has run out. It no longer possesses authority. The cauldron is on the point of boiling over. My family has held the highest offices of state for 4 generations and is universally respected. Wherefore I wish, in response to the will of heaven and the desire of the people, to assume the imperial dignity. What think ye of the proposal, my officers? The recorder, Yen Hsiang, rose in opposition at once. You may not do this. Hu Kai, the minister of the Chu dynasty, was of distinguished virtue and held many offices, till in the time of Wen Wang he had 2/3 of the empire. Still he served and was loyal to the Yin dynasty. Your house is honorable, but it is not so glorious as that of Chu. The hands may be reduced, but they are not so abominably cruel as Tzu of the Yins. Indeed, this should not be done. Yuan Shu did not hear this with pleasure. We Yuans came from Chern, and he was a descendant of Shun, the emperor. By the rule of interpreting the signs of fate, the day has come when earth receives fire. Beside there is an oracle saying, he who replaces the hands must wade through deep mire. My name means the high road. It fits exactly. Further than this, I possess the hereditary seal of state and must become lord of all, or I turn from heaven's own way. Finally, I have made up my mind, so if anyone says too much he will simply suffer death. He arrogated himself the insignia of royalty. He set up officials with titles only given by an emperor, and rode in a carriage decorated with the dragon and phoenix, and offered sacrifices after the manner of an emperor in the north and south suburbs. Also he appointed an empress and an heir apparent in the eastern palace, and pressed for the early wedding of Lu Pu's daughter with his son, that the palace entourage might be complete. But when he heard of the fate of his marriage ambassador, he was very angry and began at once to plan for revenge. Chang Hsun was made generalissimo, having under his command more than 20 legions, in 7 divisions under so many commanders, and each of these was instructed to make a certain town his objective. The governor of Yanchu, Qin Shang, was ordered to superintend the commissariat, but he declined the office and so was put to death. Kai Ling was in command of the reserves to help wherever he was required. Yuan Shu led 3 legions, and he appointed 3 tried officers to go up and down and see that the various armies did not lag behind. Lu Pu found out from his scouts that his own city was Chang Hsun's objective, the other towns to be first attacked being Xiaope, Iru, Langya, Qixi, Xiaope, and Chunshan. The armies were marching 50 li a day and plundering the countryside as they advanced. He summoned his advisers to a council to which came Chern Kung, Chern Tang, and his father. When all had assembled, Chern Kung said, "This misfortune that has come to us is due to the 2 Cherns, who fawned upon the central government in order to obtain rank and appointments. Now remove the evil by putting these 2 to death and sending their heads to our enemy. Then he will retire and leave us in peace." Lu Pu acquiesced and had the 2 arrested, but the son, Chern Tang, only laughed. "What is this anxiety about?" said he. "These 7 armies are no more to me than so many heaps of rotting straw. They are not worth thinking about. If you can show us how to overcome them, I will spare your life," said Lu. "General, if you will listen to a poor stupid fool, the city will be perfectly safe." Let us hear what you have to say. Yuan Shu's men are numerous, but they are only a flock of crows. They are not an army under a leader. There is no mutual confidence. I can keep them at bay with the ordinary guards of the place, and could overcome them by some unsuspected stratagem. If I should fail, I have another plan by which I can not only protect the city, but capture our enemy. Let us have it. Han Xin and Yang Feng, two of the leaders of our enemies, are old servants of the Han dynasty who fled from fear of Tsao and being homeless, sought refuge with Yuan Shu. He despises them, and they are dissatisfied with his service. A little letter will secure their help as our allies, and with Liu Pei to help us on the outside, we can certainly overcome Yuan. You shall take the letters yourself, said Lu. He agreed, and a memorial detailing his intentions was sent to the capital, letters to Yuchu to Liu Pei, and finally Chen was sent, with a small escort, to wait for Han Xin on the road to Saipe. When Han Xin's army had halted and pitched camp, Chen went to see Han Xin, who said, "What are you here for? You belong to Lu Pu. I am a noble of the court of the great Hans. Why do you call me a Lu Pu's man? If you, general, hitherto a minister of state, now serve a traitor, you nullify the grand services you rendered in protecting the emperor, and I despise you. Beside the suspicious, Yuan Shu will assuredly do you some harm, and you will regret not having taken this opportunity to work against him." Han Xin sighed. "I would return to my allegiance if there should be any opportunity." Thereupon Chen gave him the letter. Han read it and said, "Yes, I know. You may return to your master and say General Yang and I will turn our weapons and smite him. Look out for a signal flare and let your master come to our aid." As soon as Chen had got back and reported his success, Lu Pu divided his men into 5 divisions and sent them to 5 points to meet his enemies. He himself led against the main body under Chang Sun, leaving a guard in the city. Lu Pu camped 30 li from the walls. When the enemy came up, their leader thought Lu Pu too strong to attack with the force he had, so he retired 20 li to await reinforcements. That night in the second watch, Han Xin and Yang Feng arrived, and soon the flare was lighted as arranged. Lu Pu's men were admitted to the camp and caused great confusion. Then Lu Pu himself attacked, and Chang Sun was routed and fled. Lu Pu pursued till daylight, when he fell in with one of the other bodies led by Kai Ling. Both sides faced each other, but at the very beginning of the engagement, the 2 traitors also attacked, and Kai Ling was forced to fly. Lu Pu went in pursuit, but soon another force came out from the rear of some hills. These looked very imposing. As the ranks opened, he saw a leader's guard with flags bearing dragons and phoenixes and representations of the sun and moon, the 4 measures, 8 the 5 directions, 9 golden gourds, silver axes, yellow halberds, white yak's tails, all imperial emblems. And beneath a yellow silken parasol sat Yuan Shu on horseback, clad in silver mail with a sword handle showing at each wrist. Standing out in front of the array, he railed at his opponent, calling him traitor and slave. Lu Pu said nothing but rode forward ready for battle, and Lai Feng, one of Yuan's leaders, advanced to take the challenge. They met, but at the 3rd bout, Lai was wounded in the hand, whereupon his spear fell to the ground and he fled. Lu Pu waved on the advance and his men prevailed. The other side fled, leaving much spoil, clothing, mail, and horses. Yuan Shu's defeated men had not gone far when a strong troop, led by Kuan Yu, appeared barring his way. "Traitor, why have they not slain you?" cried Kuan Yu. Whereat Yuan Shu fled in great trepidation, and his army melted into fugitives in all directions. The new army fell upon them with great slaughter. Yuan Shu and the remnant of his army retreated into Huainan. Victory being now secure, Lu Pu, in company with Quan Yu, Yang Feng and Han Hsin returned to Suchu, where there were banquets and feastings and rewards for the soldiers. These over, Quan took his leave and returned to his brother, while Han Hsin was appointed magistrate of Idu and his friend magistrate of Langya. There had been a question of keeping these two in Suchu, but Chern opposed it. Let them hold those places in Shantung, which will be all yours within a year. So they were sent to these two cities in the meantime to await orders. Why not retain them here? Asked Chern tearing secretly of his father. They would be a basis for our conspiracy against Lu Pu. But if they helped him, on the other hand, we should lengthen the tiger's claws and teeth, said his father. So Tern could only approve of his father's precautions. Yuan Shu returned home burning to avenge his defeat, so he sent to Chiangtung to ask a loan of men from Sun Tsr. Tsr said, on the strength of holding the state seal, he secretly calls himself emperor and rebels against the hands. I would rather punish such a renegade than help him. So he refused. The letter refusing help added to Yuan's anger. What next from this callow youth? Cried he. I will smite him before I deal with the other. But Yang Ta-Chiang dissuaded him from this course. Having refused help to his powerful rival son Tsr, thought it wise to take measures for his own safety. So he stationed an army at Chiangku. Soon after came a messenger from Tsao bearing his appointment as prefect of Kuichi, with orders to raise an army and reduce Yuan Shu. Sun Tsr was inclined to carry out these orders, but he called a council at which Chang Keo opposed this course. Said he, although recently defeated, Yuan Shu has many men and ample supplies. He is not to be attacked lightly. You had better write to Tsao persuading him to attack the south, and we will be auxiliaries. Between the two armies Shu must certainly be defeated. If by the remotest chance we lose, we have Tsao to come to our rescue. This plan was adopted, and a messenger was sent to lay it before Tsao. In the meantime, Tsao had reached Sudu, where his first thought was to institute sacrifices to his beloved lost leader Tyne Y. He conferred rank upon his son Tyne Man and took him into his own palace to be cared for. Presently arrived Sun Tsr's messenger with letters, and next came a report that Yuan Shu, being short of food, had made a raid on Chern Liu. Tsao thought the moment opportune, so he issued orders for the expedition south, leaving Tsao Jern to hold the city. The army marched, horse and foot, 17 legions, with commissariat wagons of food to the number of over 1,000. Messages were sent to summon Sun Tsr, Liu Pei and Lu Pu to assemble on the Yuchang borders. Liu Pei was the first to arrive, and he was called into the minister's tent. After the usual salutations, 2 human heads were produced. Whose are these? Asked Tsao in surprise. The heads of Han Hsin and Yang Feng. Why did this happen? They were sent to control Idu and Langya, and allowed their soldiers to plunder the people. Bitter complaints arose, so I invited them to a banquet, and my brothers dispatched them when I gave the signal by dropping a cup. Their men gave in at once, and now I have to apologize for my fault. You have removed an evil which is a grand service. Why talk of a fault? And he praised Yuan Ter's action. When the joint army reached Lu Pu's borders, he came to meet it. Tsao spoke graciously to him, and conferred upon him the title of Generalissimo of the left, promising him a suitable seal as soon as he returned to the capital. Lu Pu was very pleased. Then the 3 armies were made into one force, Tsao being in the center and the other 2 on the wings. Xiaohu Tun and Yu Qin were leaders of the van. On Yuan Shu's side, Xiao Sui with 5 legions was appointed van leader. The armies met on the confines of Shaochun. The two van leaders rode out and opened battle. Xiao Sui fell in the third bout and his men fled into the city. Then came news that Sun Tsr's fleet was near and would attack on the west. The other three land corps took each one face, and the city was in a parlous state. At this juncture, Yuan Shu summoned his officers. Yang Taqiang explained the case. Shaochun has suffered from drought for several years, and the people are on the verge of famine. Sending an army would add to the distress and anger the people, and victory would be uncertain. I advise not to send any more soldiers there, but to hold on till the besiegers are conquered by lack of supplies. Our noble chief, with his regiment of guards, will move over to the other side of the river, which is quite ready, and we shall also escape the enemy's ferocity. So due arrangements being made to guard Shaochun, a general move was made to the other side of the Huai River. Not only the army went over, but all the accumulated wealth of the Yuan family, gold and silver, jewels and precious stones, were moved. Tsao's army of 17 legions needed daily no inconsiderable quantity of food, and as the country around had been famine-stricken for several years, nothing could be got there. So he tried to hasten the military operations and capture the city. On the other hand, the defenders knew the value of delay and simply held on. After a month's vigorous siege, the fall of the city seemed as far off as it was at first, and supplies were very short. Letters were sent to Sun Tsr, who sent 100,000 measures of grain. When the usual distribution became impossible, the chief of the commissariat, Jern H. Sun, and the controller of the granaries, Wang Hu, presented a statement asking what was to be done. "Serve out with a smaller measure," said Tsao. "That will save us for a time. But if the soldiers murmur, what then? I shall have another device." As ordered, the controllers issued grain in a short measure. Tsao sent secretly to find out how the men took this, and when he found that complaints were general, and they were saying that he was fooling them, he sent a secret summons to the controller. When he came, Tsao said, "I want to ask you to lend me something to pacify the soldiers with. You must not refuse." "What does the minister wish?" "I want the loan of your head to expose to the soldiery." "But I have done nothing wrong," exclaimed the unhappy man. "I know that, but if I do not put you to death, there will be a mutiny. After you are gone, your wife and children shall be my care, so you need not grieve on their account." Wang Hu was about to remonstrate further, but Tsao gave a signal. The executioners hustled him out, and he was beheaded. His head was exposed on a tall pole, and a notice said that, in accordance with military law, Wang Hu had been put to death for peculation, and the use of a short measure in issuing grain. This appeased the discontent. Next followed a general order threatening death to the various commanders if the city was not taken within 3 days. Tsao in person went up to the very walls to superintend the work of filling up the moat. The defenders kept up constant showers of stones and arrows. 2 inferior officers, who left their stations in fear, were slain by Tsao himself. Thereafter he went on foot to see that work went on continuously, and no one dared be a laggard. Thus encouraged, the army became invincible, and no defense could withstand their onslaught. In a very short time the walls were scaled, the gates battered in, and the besiegers were in possession. The officers of the garrison were captured alive and were executed in the marketplace. All the paraphernalia of imperial state were burned, and the whole city wrecked. When the question of crossing the river in pursuit of Yuan Shu came up, Sun Yu opposed it, saying, "The country has suffered from short crops for years, and we should be unable to get grain. An advance would weary the army, harm the people, and possibly end in disaster. I advise a return to the capital to wait there till the spring wheat shall have been harvested, and we have plenty of food." Tsao hesitated, and before he had made up his mind there came an urgent message saying Chang Hsu, with the support of Liu Paiao, was ravaging the country all round, that there was rebellion in Nanyang and Tsao Hung could not cope with it. He had been worsted already in several engagements and was in sore straits. Tsao at once wrote to Sun Tser to command the river so as to prevent any move on the part of Liu Paiao, while he prepared his army to go to deal with Chang Hsu. Before marching, he directed Liu Pei to camp at Siope, as he and Lu Pu, being as brothers, might help each other. When Lu Pu had left for Suchu, Tsao said secretly to Yuan Ter, "I am leaving you at Siope as a pitfall for the tiger. You will only take advice from the two Chans, and there can be no mishap. You will find so-and-so your ally when needed." So Tsao marched to Suru, where he heard that Tuan Y had slain Lai Tsui, and Wu Hsi had killed Qos Su, and they presented the heads of these two. Beside the whole clan of Lai Tsui had been arrested and brought to the capital. They were all put to death at various gates and their heads exposed. People thought this very harsh dealing. In the emperor's palace, a large number of officials were assembled at a peace banquet. The two successful leaders, Tuan and Wu, were rewarded with titles and sent to guard Ca Changan. They came to audience to express their gratitude and marched away. Then Tsao sent in a memorial that Chang Hsu was in rebellion, and an army must be sent against him. The emperor in person arranged the chariot and escorted his minister out of the city when he went to take command of the expedition. It was the summer, the 4th month of the 3rd year of the period Chinen, 199 AD. Sun Yu was in chief military command in Suru. The army marched away. In the course of the march they passed through a wheat district, and the grain was ready for harvesting, but the peasants had fled for fear, and the corn was uncut. Tsao caused it to be made known all about that he was sent on the expedition by command of the emperor to capture a rebel and save the people. He could not avoid moving in the harvest season, but if anyone trampled down the corn, he should be put to death. Military law was so severe that the people need fear no damage. The people were very pleased and lined the road, wishing success to the expedition. When the soldiers passed wheat fields, they dismounted and pushed aside the stalks so that none were trampled down. One day, when Tsao was riding through the fields, a dove suddenly got up, startling the horse so that he swerved into the standing grain, and a large patch was trampled down. Tsao at once called the provost marshal and bade him decree the sentence for the crime of trampling down corn. "How can I deal with your crime?" asked the provost marshal. "I made the rule and I have broken it. Can I otherwise satisfy public opinion?" He laid hold of the sword by his side and made to take his own life. All hastened to prevent him, and Kuo-Chia said, "In ancient days, the days of the spring and autumn history, the laws were not applied to the persons of the most honorable. You are the supreme leader of a mighty army and must not wound yourself." Tsao pondered for a long time. At last he said, "Since there exists the reason just quoted, I may perhaps escape the death penalty." Then with his sword he cut off his hair and threw it on the ground, saying, "I cut off the hair as touching the head." Then he sent a man to exhibit the hair throughout the whole army, saying, "The minister, having trodden down some corn, ought to have lost his head by the terms of the order. Now here is his hair cut off as an attack on the head." This deed was a stimulus to discipline all through the army, so that not a man dared be disobedient. A poet wrote, "A myriad soldiers march along, and all are brave and bold, and their myriad inclinations by one leader are controlled. That crafty leader shore his locks when forfeit was his head. O full of guile wert thou, Tsao, as everyone has said." On the first news of the approach of Tsao with an army, Chang Hsu wrote to Liu Piao for help. Then he sent out his men under command of Lei Hsu and Chang Hsin. When the array was complete, Chang Hsu took his station in front, and pointing at Tsao railed at him, saying, "O false and pretended supporter of benevolence and justice! O shameless one! You are just a beast of the forest and absolutely devoid of humanity." This annoyed Tsao, who sent out Hsu against the insulter. Chang Hsin came to meet him and fell in the third bout. Thence Chang Hsu's men fled and were pursued to the very walls of Nanyang, only managing to get within just before the pursuit came up. The city was then closely besieged. Seeing the moat was so wide and deep that approach to the wall would be difficult, they began to fill up the ditch with earth. Then with sandbags, brushwood, and bundles of grass, they built a great mound near the wall, and on this erected steps so that they could look over into the city. Tsao rode round the city, closely inspecting the defenses. 3 days later he issued an order to make a mound of earth and brushwood at the northwest angle, as he would mount the walls at that point. He was observed from within the city by Chia Hsu, who went to his chief and said, "I know what he intends, and I can defeat him by a counter-move. And amongst the very foremost there is one who leads the way. Someone sees through your devices, be as crafty as he may." What the counter-move was will be told in the next chapter.